Hi, everybody. How are you? I hope you're good. This is Allie, Heart and Soul Connected, doing my tarot archetypal series. I went out of order and I apologize for that. I completely forgot the Wheel of Fortune. Oh my God. So I had to go back to that one before we can move forward. I'm sure you've all seen the Wheel of Fortune, not the TV show, but the card. I got to make sure I'm putting it in the right place. Boy, is there a lot of cool information on this card. Ooh wee! I'm looking forward to telling you all about it. So, um, hmm, let's start with just some keywords. We have destiny and fortune and success, elevation, luck, felicity. One of the biggest things that has an element of change in it. We're going to see that probably, of course, in the death card, but it's also the Wheel of Fortune. There's an element of change. But I think what you're going to see in the Wheel of Fortune is it's on the level of um, more spiritual fortune. I guess that's kind of how I want to state it. Okay. So, based on the goddess Fortuna, this particular card is attended by a half human or sphinx like half human. And yet later on, I find out this is not necessary. This is Horus, Horus, one of the Egyptian gods, actually, in another book that I'm reading. In the archetype, it is meant to reinforce class hierarchies. So, as you know, um, we don't really have them here in the United States, so they're not spoken, but there are hierarchies of class, and there have been since the beginning of time. Some of those hierarchies we deem to be better than, higher than, um, and most of them you have to be born into. Um, and so um, I just read that there was a group of I think it was Egyptians that every year they chose a new king because they had to they had to kill the one, sacrifice him to the gods at the end of the year, as part of their ritual. So that in that case, if you were the king or you were the hierarchy, you wouldn't be too happy about being up there in that position, unless you felt fairly comfortable that you were going to live and be an immortal soul. Um, it also is the balance of reinforcing the balance of power, authority, and the balance between good and evil. I think we need to keep track also of the fact that, let's just take Will Smith as an example. He did not get the Oscar before he punched or slapped Chris Rock, but at the same time he had a lot of pride, a lot of hubris, and this is what this card is all about. And it's misuse of hubris, misuse of pride, and can happen to any of us. We might begin to think that we're just better than everybody else for whatever reason. We may think we're better at good at a sport, or we're better at playing cards. I don't know, whatever it is, and we usually get taken out in some way and are made to look at the fact that this kind of ego pride that we're demonstrating is fleeting and can lead us down in a different path. And we've seen that over and over again in time. This also is considered to be the karma card. What goes around comes around. I call it the karma bus. In this case, this wheel is always moving, ever moving. It doesn't stop. It continues to move. So even though we have it on a card and it's just sitting there like this, I want you to recognize that this is universal principles. It represents universal principles, not only for us, but also for nature, human nature, and animal nature, and nature, okay, physical nature. So, and we see this with the way that the seasons change. We see this with the way that cycles come and cycles go. Right now, we're in another cycle of having a trouble with the I wouldn't say trouble with the economy. I'd say more like we have to get ourselves back on track after the virus. But we are in a situation where we have to move forward. And instead of blaming other people for what has happened and you can't do anything about it, it's so much better just to move on. Interestingly, as you well know, this name of this particular card turned into a game show. in the late 20th century. And, it's about spinning the wheel and seeing if you win, and then making that decision as to whether you make that last spin or not, or do you just take what you have. Most of us don't know what we'd really do, because it isn't us. We aren't standing there. We always say, why did they do that? They lost all their money. Or why? Oh my God, how could they do that? I would have done this. No, you don't know what you would have done. There's absolutely no way until you're standing in the shoes of that person. The other thing I wanted to say is, when I was reading this, it brought me back to a recent read of an old Stephen King book, The Dead Zone. And it reminded me so much of what the protagonist goes through at a carnival, or at a fair in Maine. And he just gambles and gambles and gambles all the time on the Wheel of Fortune. And very good book, by the way. In Stephen King's, we see a colliery of how this protagonist moves and doesn't really see what he's supposed to see as he moves on. So here, the Sphinx guards at the top. I don't know if this is the devil, but he's kind of a creepy looking creature here. And he's kind of laying on the Wheel of Fortune. It reminds me of one of the cartoon characters that just, yeah, I'm here, I'm here, and you can't really get me out of here. I'm here. I don't know if you've ever noticed that on the other side, this side, we have the asp, or Set, an Egyptian god as well. Notice that the angel at the top reading a book, and there's sort of an eagle or a funny looking bird at the top. Maybe it's a griffin, I'm not sure, with a book in his talons. Down the bottom, we have sort of an ox, with an angel ox with a book. And we have a lion at the other side with wings and a book. The Book of Life, and how the Book of Life is different for everybody, and how that is determined by, actually, it's going to tell us, it's not luck, it's virtue. We have changed the meaning of this card over time. So I want to tell you what its original meaning means, and then I will talk about what we kind of look at it today. Whenever someone pulls this for me, I think it's a good change, unless maybe it's upside down and they'll tell me, maybe some bad changes are coming, or some difficult changes, whatever it is. I read somewhere today that the tarot is not magic. It is meant for us to take the time to look at where we are and what we need to do. The devil also reminds us of our folly. The devil says, I can catch you when you most need me to. Because I come from a literature background, it's a Faustian bargain. It's saying that, I'll sell my soul if I can have this woman. I'll sell my soul if I can have this job. I'll sell my soul if I can have some money. It usually has something to do with the physical world. No one really says, I'll sell my soul if I can be an enlightened person, because that's actually a contradiction, which is what this card is full of as well. So the Sphinx at the top also carries a lot of symbolism here from the story Oedipus, the king. And if you have never read it, I suggest you do. It's one of the best plays of all time. It was written many years ago. But in it, Oedipus goes to the Sphinx, and the Sphinx says, you may pass if you tell me the answer to this riddle. And so it's called the Riddle of the Sphinx. And I think I might have mentioned it in another card, but anyway, it carries on here. He said, the Sphinx said, what animal walks on four legs, and then later walks on 2 legs, and then later walks on 3 legs? And it's man. As a baby, we crawl, we walk on 2 feet, and then we walk with a cane, that 3rd leg. So he answers it correctly, and he moves on. He's intellectual. He's smart. He figured it out. Oh, yes, he's all good. They want to remind you that intellect is not the guarantee of our fate. So, to be a doctor, to be a lawyer, to be a teacher, to be a therapist, whatever that you are becoming, does not guarantee your fate. Things can happen in all categories. Yes, you may have more opportunities if used correctly, but you can also throw your pride into it. You can also throw your hubris. That's what pride is. When you allow your ego to take over, when you allow your ego to command your life. And so this is built into this. In the story of Oedipus, he was told that because of the sins of his father, that he would end up killing his father and marrying his mother. And he had been given up on a mountaintop, and he ended up going to another king, and another king's wife raised him. So he moved away when he was older so as not to have the prophecy come true. And as he does, he ends up fulfilling the prophecy anyway, unwittingly, but mostly because his pride is so uh, out there, that he cannot see what's in front of his eyes. And even the seer Tiresias, who is a seer and a blind man, can see the truth, but Oedipus can't see the truth. We don't want to see the truth many times, of ourselves, of course, and other things. And when we ignore the truths, we keep getting the karma wheel coming back over and over again. Sometimes we move up and we're more elevated when things happen. Other times we're right back down here in the muck and the mire because we haven't learned the lesson. So yes, change may come. You may be getting rid of things, or you may be just having a change anyway. The wheel pictures also, in my mind, collective hubris. If I was pulling this card for the United States and I pulled the Wheel of Fortune, I might say to myself, things might get better. The economy might get better, whatever else it might be. But it also might tell me a caveat. If we don't get too big for our britches, if we don't start to believe we're the be all and the end all, and I don't know if that's ever possible, because I know there's a lot of people under the name of patriotism that believe that we're better than all these other countries. I don't subscribe to that philosophy. I believe that there are people that we're just another country, and we have our problems, and we have some good things that come as well. But we aren't the best country in the world. I don't feel that way. So, well, I just got in trouble there. Something just crashed. Sorry. Oh boy. So we're warned that fate awaits all of us, or our collective us, our we. And that we need to that if we try to self-elevate and escape the earthly fate, or which might be our purpose, that it's not going to really work out too well for us, or it could go awry. If this sounds like a contradiction, it is a contradiction. Life is a contradiction. The Wheel of Fortune is a contradiction. Probably what I've said is a contradiction. I don't know. But our task is that we're given a heroic task or a challenge to complete in the 3D world. And I'm putting this in my own language, but that's what I got out of this. Of earthly creatures, or what my brother used to call race mind. In other words, it's the 3D mind. It's the 3D mindset. It's the capitalism mindset, or it's the mindset of I'm owed something, that kind of thing. And I'm not subscribing to the idea that everybody feels this way. Okay, so please, there's my caveat there. This is not a declaration of war on anybody. Operating in this world is our fate, but it doesn't mean that we're better than those who cannot attain ascension. It is not their time. They did not come here for that. They came here for something else. And while it's frustrating for those of us who wish to ascend, who wish to grow, to wish to move on and become more enlightened, to be better spiritual people. It's very difficult to meet that out when you're living in a 3D world, and there are people that will be living in that 3D world because this is one of their first incarnations here on Earth. We have to remember that. The Wheel of Fortune also always had meaning in it that brought an symbol to reincarnation. And even the Gnostic texts, the Christian Gnostics, believed in reincarnation and life, life after life. The medieval church changed a lot of this. We also live in a distracted world. We have to balance ourselves and our life and aspire to integrate higher dimensions into our experience while living in a 3D world. Don't beat yourself up. We all fall victim to the 3D world. We just don't want to get sucked back in that far, that's all. 3D demands very much of us. We have to work, we have to raise families, we have to pay bills, we have to deal with hardships, losing people, losing pets, having pets, going to job, it goes on and on and on and on. It saps our strength and it takes our focus away from us. All this from this card. It also reminds us many times to operate more in our lower chakra system, more from the root level, the gut level, whatever it is. When you get up on a stage and you slap someone across the face, that's red chakra. I mean, what else could it be? It's anger, it's frustration, it's very physicality. I'm no fan of Will Smith. He's fine, but he's not like a favorite of mine. But I sense that that's where he was at when he did that. I'm not excusing it. I just find it to be very interesting that it can represent something like that. We need to liberate the captive energies so we can ascend to our true nature, what we came here to do, because the wheel is in motion all the time. Whether we're here, whether we die, it's the interplay of earthly and human nature. It shows us a process of constant transformation. And it is everything in us is in flux at all times. Everything. And I think that today I saw that so vividly in watching a news clip of the people at the train station yesterday. Someone was taking a video, or there was a video, and people were talking, standing there, older ladies standing there, and they did, then they hear a noise far away and they're kind of, oh, well, I wonder what that is. And then the next thing you know, half of them are on the ground. They're dead. In a split second, that world went into flux. And they were there and they were gone. It also reminds me of, when the bomb was dropped on Hiroshima. You see those images etched in two walls of a man about to, he was doing like a horse and buggy, and he was about to, take the whip and hit the horse, I guess, and gone. But the carbon on the wall, you can see the picture of him, what he's doing. These are very poignant reminders of the flux of life. Absolutely. I'm sure you could come up with many of your own. It shows us that the process is constant. It's transformative. It could be transformative for the good or the bad. And everything at all times is in flux, which includes the beginning and ending of our lives, or in nature's life, or animal life. It invites us, like William Blake, the poet William Blake, asked us to do, is to look at the unity and not the duality of something. And the hub represents the universal laws that we have, and there's lots of symbols there. One of the things that it brought up that I really thought I wanted to share with you from one of the research that I did was the idea of introvert and extrovert. Because we got people here, even this guy here is definitely an extrovert. He's riding on a wheel of fortune. Maybe he's not a good guy or whatever, but this is the introvert, just standing there saying, okay, what do you want me to do? The introvert learns to be by being. I'll say that again. The introvert learns to be by being. The extrovert learns to be while doing. I like that. And I know that that's the way I am. I learn by doing. The wheel also balances Eastern and Western philosophies. The Eastern philosophy, I remember in a class that I was teaching, says that most Eastern people value their home. They live in it for a very long time. They're not up and moving around. They're not big movers and shakers and all that stuff. And that's probably also why the Ukrainians didn't want to leave their home. That was them. That was them. As Americans and probably Canadians and probably Australians, we travel more. Europeans travel more so, and we value travel. It's not that we don't value our home, but if we move into a new house, it's no big deal. It's like, oh yeah, I got to move across the country. Okay, here we go. Back it up. The Eastern principles are slow to change, and we can see that just by the idea of that. The Western world has actually spun out into objective reality. We're kind of just out there somewhere. And so are a lot of the Western principles. Remember also that the wheel represents, it can be seen in mythical lore, the round table of King Arthur. The reason he had it was 12 men were him and 12 men would meet, and no man was any better than any other man. And so if you had a round table, then you had equality. Not like Putin's, I'm going to sit at the end here and you sit at the end over here. I mean, this was immersion in there. Since the world is in movement, or the Wheel of Fortune is always in movement, we, as I mentioned, we can come back to the same place that we've been before. We may have a higher elevation, though. Maybe that we could see from a higher perspective, or we have become different. Because even when you're reading a book, or you're going to a place you've been to before, or you're rewatching a movie, any of those things, you're a different person, and the movie or the book or the place is a different place. How is that possible? Because nothing is the same. Everything is in flux. I think that's the biggest message of the Wheel of Fortune. The Wheel of Fortune is considered to be a help button for us nowadays. But it's not for what we think it is. It's to remind us that time and mortality are to be watched because they are fleeting. We don't think about them. Oh, we'll think about that tomorrow. We have the foolishness in our lives of chasing fortune, and we focus on riches, and in an impermanent world, virtue is always better than luck. Virtue's better than luck. This is luck. If somebody gets something, that they're lucky. That's what a lot of people think. Like it just came that way for them. Isn't always, which doesn't mean, and I think the hardest part for those people who aren't spiritual people, with regard to seeking or chasing fortune or chasing whatever it is that we want, like we got law of attraction, we get all that stuff, is that we have to see that in the long run, what is most important. And when you're on your deathbed, are you going to worry about your computer? Are you going to worry about all your books or all your rings or all your necklaces or whatever you have? No, it's your family, it's experience, it's love. I think the Wheel of Fortune says, come back here and start thinking about that when this shows up. The card reminded us in the medieval times, before it changed, that there was mystery in nature and ritual in sacrifice. And I don't mean killing oneself necessarily, but sacrificing oneself to a higher good, a higher calling. Then it also represented a turn of luck. It asks us why some people were rich and some people were poor, why they were lucky and we weren't lucky, or ourselves. Now the Wheel of Fortune is considered to be a mystery of fate. It's the halfway point in the major arcana. It's number 10. It is the law of karma. The symbols all possess meanings. And the best thing I can tell you about this is I found out the meaning of this and it made me really happy. If you look at the Wheel of Fortune, you'll see at the top it has a T. It has an A in the 3 o'clock position. It has an R at the 6 o'clock position. It has an O at the 9 o'clock position. What I would say is you could also add in that extra T and it would say tarot, correct? All right, but we're going to leave it with just T-A-R-O. T-A-R-O. If you read it in a different way, it could be R-O-T-A, right? Could be, depending on how you're holding it. Or it could be O-R-A-T, if you read it the other way. Or it could be A-T-O-R. So there's 4 expressions of these words written within the Wheel of Fortune. We know what the Torah is, right? The Torah is the Word of God. All right. Rota means wheel. I think, I don't know if it's the basis for wheel in Latin or Spanish. Orat, oral, orat, speaks. And Ator was a goddess in Egypt of the dead, or the law of eternal life concealed in the natural world. If you put together these 4 words, Torah, Rota, Orat, Ator, it says, the Wheel of Tarot speaks the law of Ator. And I told you, Ator means the law of eternal life concealed in the natural world. Otherwise, the body dies, the soul continues, and alchemy is ever present. Just a few things to think about. Thanks so much, everybody. Really enjoyed it. I'll get back to you with the Hanged Man probably next week. Make it a good one. Thank you. Bye-bye.